Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Three Idiots Talk Aquariums podcast. As you can see, I'm joined by two idiots, so it's not ideal. If you're listening, they were dancing, so don't care.
Right.
But yeah, I thought we'll start off this week with a bit of a what's been going on in our aquariums segment. Talking about our tanks, like both in the shops or at home or like in fish rooms and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything exciting, Cam, you wanna dive on in with?
Yeah, I do actually. Someone pointed out that there was some baby white cloud minnows in my frog tank, which
Oh,
was
nice.
kind of cool. Yeah, so that's exciting. So there's three of them, I think, which is a massive spawn. So that was kind of cool, and I'll just see how well they populate and let them do their thing.
Were they the
And
gold ones or the
they're
standard normal colors?
just the standard ones.
Oh, cool enough either way.
They're
Anyway,
cool fish. And the fry are wicked little things. They actually got
Yeah.
like an iridescent stripe down them when they get a bit of size
Yeah,
on them. Hey, they're quite cool.
They're very shimmery though. I thought they were really cool. So that's exciting. And
nice.
I have some Shelly fry as well. And I think there's at least 2, maybe 3 different spawns in there by the look of the different sizes of them.
Oh, nice. That's the gold ocellatus, eh?
Yeah.
That's mean. That's such a cool fish.
Yeah.
It's good to see more of them getting around.
Yeah, not quite sure where to go with them just yet, whether I remove the parents and raise the fry in that tank or try and siphon out all the fry and raise them separately or just leave them all in there and see how they go. But I'll work that out in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, that's happy times.
How big is the tank?
It's only a Blue Planet 2-footer.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, one
big
male.
enough anyway. Gives you options.
Yeah.
Big enough to give you options at least.
Yeah. I've got other tanks hanging around that they could go into, but at the moment they're not. So that's where they're sitting for the time being.
Fair enough. Have you had anything exciting happening over your way around?
I figure if I can run through each tank and take a minute in each tank, that's an hour, and we don't have to talk about plecos.
Life hack.
I've just discovered an out from this, and then we could just say, yeah, plecos are dumb. And I could talk about a bristle nose that's in one of my tanks or something, and then we've done it. We've ticked the box. We don't have to go back there again.
Plecos are amazing.
And he's holding up a Pleco Aquarius t-shirt, and he looks like he's a week old, hasn't bathed or anything like that. He just looks homeless pretty much with a Pleco shirt on.
Clearly, you're just talking about Cam because no one knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. No, my fish room's just ticking along at the moment, just trying to bulk some stuff out. I don't think I've had anything exciting breed for a while. Just Azurius have been the coolest thing recently that sort of started cranking, which I really like. They're a cool fish.
That one I want to add to my display tank.
Yeah. They're just late bloomers, but I've got some fry from them now, and Rusties are cranking, Lycoma are cranking. Everything's going pretty good there. So, just cruising along. Nothing exciting.
Oh, I think it's still pretty exciting, just not so much for you. It's good to get good to be seeing those Rusties getting going.
Yeah, I've got a number out there that I really, really, really want to get going better. So, the Lycoma and the Rusties are an example of something I've worked on for many years, and now they're finally getting somewhere with them. But there's still a few others that I need to get going. So,
What are some of the others that you're planning on in the future, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, the Jalo Reef. No? Yeah. Don't actually have any Corys at the moment, but, actually, I do have something exciting, but I'll cover that after I talk about the Mumbuna that I'm working on. The Jalo Reef are the big ones. Zebra Kawanga Golds, which Cam thought were Flavis, by the way. Which
Cam
I thought
Scott.
was pretty cool. Yeah.
Which Cam?
This Cam, inbreed Cam. Oh yes, he's got a really low IQ, but he probably hasn't seen Kawanga Golds either, so I can't really hold it against him.
It was the first time I'd seen them.
Yeah, and the tank was a bit dirty.
And your tank did say Flavis written on them.
Yeah. Well, I do that just to throw you off,
And you can't call me inbreed because I know where you live. You live in the state of deliverance.
that and dolphin manda too, another one I've got to get going as well. So there's a few little projects there. Always good when they come together.
Some exciting stuff got in the works, eh?
Yeah, but the highlight of my week was I was messaging a guy, and I found out he lives in a place called Clark's Beach, which is like miles away from here. And he offered me a bucket of plants for my fish tanks for free. And I was like, yeah, I want some free plants because, I love plants. And so he lives in Clark's Beach. And I don't go to Clark's Beach very often because it's like the other side of the world to me. But I happened to be going to Clark's Beach the next day. So
perfect timing.
I went to Clark's Beach to do some work and I got a bucket of free plants. So, yeah. How do you like
so
that?
The trophies are going to be eating well?
I put it in all my fry tanks, just some greenery because I noticed they like to munch on it. But, I got free plants. So that's the highlight of my week. Any day I get plants is good, Plants are so cool.
You're the plant man, eh?
Yeah. Plant master.
Yep. Well, yeah, I mean, for me,
you can't beat that. Even with flower horns, you can't beat that.
Exactly. Well, for me, that's a good segue into what I've been up to. Today, I just had a whole bunch of, I think I got 4 flower horns arrive that, because I'm planning on selling flower horns now because it's a bit more fun. The tanks that they're in now were kind of just a waste of time. They weren't really doing anything. There's like some bristlenoses, a couple of angels. Yeah. So I just juggled stuff around and freed them up, and now I've got some flower horns, which is pretty exciting. And then what else have I had? My brevis that I've had for maybe 4 years or so, that were the first fish, amongst the first fish that I bought off Ryan, have finally bred. So, it's been a long time coming, but at least we got there. So there's a bunch of fry floating about that I'm sure will take their time to grow, but I'm in no rush. And yeah, that's about it. I haven't had too much. My very nice pink dragon's blood in my display tank just dropped dead for no apparent reason, so that was pretty gutting. But
what were your water parameters?
They were very good. I did actually test it, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. So,
but if we post our water parameters, we don't just say they're good. We need to say exactly what they are.
Oh, sorry, sir. The pH was 8.2.
Okay, anyway,
the ammonia was 0, nitrate was 0, and nitrate was like 20 ppm. So,
okay. Right. That was just a little dig. That was a little dig at a passive aggressive post I saw on Facebook recently. But anyway,
I'm aware of the post. But yes,
carry on with your flower horns.
Well, I mean, that's probably about all that's happened to me at the moment. So, I mean, there's no easy way to say it, but we're going to be talking about bottom dwellers and like catfish and plecos and all that boring stuff today. So this is kind of the inbred one's area of expertise. I can chip in with some feather fins and some Tangiek and catfish. That's about it. Ryan probably can help with even less, but I'm sure it'll be a good time.
Let's talk about Sinnohs. Sinnohs onto us, right?
You can start with that.
Start and finish. Start and middle and finish with that.
Yeah.
Maybe some bristle noses in there.
When you say that, Ryan, what does, for someone who is unaware of what that means, what is that fish and like, or group of fish, and like, what makes them different to say like, a Corydoras or like a bristlenose or something like that?
I don't know how to describe it. They're more of an active sort of fish, more of an active sort of catfish, like the traditional catfish you'd see on I guess, if you thought of a catfish, like your bullnose type catfish, that sort of thing, that sort of style of catfish. So they're swimming around, they've got big long nostrils, not their nostrils, what would you call them? Big long feelery things. There's probably some technical term for them. They kind of look like a little bit like Cam, with all the facial hair and stuff sticking out.
A little bit of a mustache going.
So and they just cruise around. More importantly, they're from the African lakes, so they must mean they're pretty good fish, and they go good with Africans. And they're just awesome. Put them in a big group, you can actually see them. So that's a big up on most fancy plecos. You get to see them and enjoy them. So You know, it's not just something hiding under a rock. You got to look at a torch or see once a year and hope it's alive. You know, like you can actually see it, enjoy it, and they keep your tanks clean. And yeah, they're cool. Some of them have really weird, well, not really weird, but really peculiar ways of spawning. You know, the cuckoo catfish are like a what do they call them? Parasitic host spawners.
Yeah.
Other ones are egg scatterers. You know, they're just cool fish.
I looked like my cuckoos were trying to spawn this morning with my Tropheus that I've got hanging around in the back room. The Tropheus,
nice.
I don't know if they were actually spawning, but they were looking very much like they were trying to, and the cuckoos are well amongst that, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. That was the other exciting thing that I noticed today. I forgot all about
How
that.
have you not told me that you have Tropheus? That's awesome.
He sent us a video of that tank. Yeah. The Tropheus with the fronts on it.
Oh, I didn't see any Tropheus in that video, but like I probably
maybe it's Bulu's or Pemba or something. I don't know. Something like that.
Oh. It looked like you recorded the video on a potato, so I couldn't really tell what was going on.
Yeah,
I did actually.
He probably recorded it. He probably recorded it on his camcorder and then had to dub it back into the thing. You know, like, the dial-up internet was a bit slow.
Pick this part of the Cynodontis family.
It's an interesting
have no
question.
idea. They look very similar.
They've got a similar shape, similar mannerisms, a little bit flatter.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
They're actually a pretty cool fish. Yeah, I'd go with that.
They're super cool.
But they're not Cynodontis family.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know where they come from. It's South America, Brazil. So they're
stupidly active.
Yeah, do all the Cynodontis species come from the Rift Lakes, or is there more spread out in the Africa area? Like thinking like the Decorus and like the featherfins and all that kind of thing. Like probably wouldn't play well with Africans, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. There's more a lot of them from the riverways and stuff like that with cribensis and lionheads and that sort of scenario.
Yeah, they're native to Africa apparently.
Wow. The Pictus?
No, Cynodontis. Pictus are not Cynodontis. They're from Brazil. But the Cynodontis are native to Africa and most commonly found in the lakes of the Great Rift Valley.
Cool.
The cool area.
Go. But yeah, we do have all the other ones that are river dwelling ones, you know. So
the upside down things kind of crazy.
That's so weird. They like just swim around upside down, like for those like the name suggests. But yeah, they're a weird one. They're like they're one I think should be more popular for like average kind of people because it's just so weird. It's like it's like interesting and like weird and like you know your family comes over and you look and you're like we have a bunch of fish that swim around upside down. How fun!
I think they're another one of those fish that need to be in a group to get the best out of them.
Sure.
To really see it. And again, $30 to $40 on a fish you need a group of. People don't tend to do that.
Are they $30 or $40?
Something like that, yeah.
Jesus.
I might be wrong, but
I didn't know. I don't sell them. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
I thought
someone needs to start.
That's probably fair for a reasonable size, something like that. You know, $30-$40 isn't bad.
But it's when you've got to keep them in a group that price tag lifts up pretty quickly.
Well, someone's got to start cranking them so we can make them more easily accessible for most people.
Upside down catfish.
Yes, that's the one. But yeah, I mean,
member apparently.
Oh, interesting. I was going to say, when it comes to Cynodontis, I think they're ones that's not like particularly like the Tangiacan one. So that's like Petropicola, Multipunctatus, and Lucipinus. I think they're ones that's like way, way, way like underrated for people. I'm a big believer of like every African tank should just have like 20 cruising around the bottom, like they swim around like a little walking school bus kind of thing, like follow the leader which is just like funny to watch.
Multis are really, really cool when you get them in big numbers because, like I said, they just train each other all day. It's so much fun to watch.
And particularly like size-wise, they get a lot bigger than like people expect. So it's like a chunky fish where it's like you can actually see it rather than like a tiny little one you can never see. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that everyone should have some sort of swimming around. Because I have in the shop, I've got a small group of Lucipennis, like only maybe it's like 6 or 8 or something, and with my Lycoma and redfin trophiops, and like literally everyone that comes in is like, "What is that? That's so cool! It's like so weird looking. They swim. They're interesting to watch swim and all that." And like even like very serious cichlid people, like just have no idea. I think it's one where it's like the education is lacking, and also they're not the cheapest fish, so like that also has to play into it. But I really urge you to get it.
We got really lucky with those Lucipennis that
Oh,
Cullen
yeah,
ended up with
100%.
them and bred them and kept them going, because otherwise we would have lost them, you know. And to the untrained eye, people think they're the same as multis or petricola, but they are, you know, when you see them, they're so much more slender. They're different fish, and they stay a lot smaller too.
Do you want to explain the difference in the three? Because like they're not the most common fish, and there's probably some people right now that are listening and googling images and stuff like that. So, do one of you guys want to sort of explain the difference between the three and maybe behavior, appearance, all that kind of stuff?
To be honest, I have to Google it if I want to tell the difference, even though I've got all
Honestly,
three.
honestly, me too.
Yeah, I'm not that. Obviously, the breeding's different, but the multis get the biggest, so that's always a giveaway if you've got big adults.
Yeah, and they're the ones that spawn with the cichlids.
The parasitic ones, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what that is for those of you who don't know listening, it's like you get Cam used the example of the Tropheus. Like you get some Tropheus swimming around trying to spawn, and so what they do is like they lay the eggs basically, and then the multis like quickly shoot in and then eat the eggs and then lay their own eggs.
Do they eat them?
I'm pretty sure they eat them.
I thought they just
they eat the cichlid eggs as well, and their own eggs. Yeah.
I thought the females ate the whole lot, or took the whole lot in the mouth, and then the multis hatched before the cichlids, and then they ate the cichlid eggs in the mouth as the way of their nutrients.
They do, but they'll also have a feed of cichlid eggs on the way through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Opportunistic feed, you know.
Yeah. Well, basically they do that, and then the Tropheus in this example, being a mouth brooder, will pick up all the eggs in the mouth, and then like incubate them until they're ready to they hatch in the mouth, and then like until they're big enough to like not get eaten in theory. But they're obviously picking up the multi eggs and getting like basically tricked into keeping them in their mouth to like protect them, because obviously like a Tropheus is a much bigger and meaner fish than like a little catfish, so you know then it basically gets looked after for them. So that's kind of how they reproduce, for those of you wondering, which is super interesting.
Their fry hatch in about 3 days, and the cichlid fry don't hatch for about 7 days. And as soon as the catfish fry hatch, they eat all the cichlid fry, and they eat each other, and then 1 or 2 big synnos emerge.
That's really
fat
quite
ones,
cool.
eh?
It's
really
so weird. Cool how they do that.
Like nature is just so weird, man.
How on earth did they ever figure out how to do that? You know what I mean?
No idea, man.
Yeah.
Must be God.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
Yes, sir. But yeah, and then the petricola is another one. Stays a little bit smaller, and they just like spawn in a cave or like a little, you know, in a tank, like a little coconut cave or something. In the wild, just any old rock type of crevice or whatever you'd call it. But yeah, they spawn there, stay a little bit smaller, have a slightly different pattern. Yeah, that's about it. And then the Lucipennis, same again, but just a bit smaller again, and more like the multis and the petricola, more like kind of chunky fish. whereas then the Lucipennis is more like just like a slimmer, like thinner type of body shape. But yeah, I mean, even like, for 99% of people, it's very hard to tell the difference between them, especially when they're littler.
And
So yeah,
and even you can order Petricola off the wholesale list and you get multis, or you can order multis off the wholesale list and you get Petricola, because often they can't even tell the difference, and they're the supposed experts. So you know,
it's
I've
like
seen lists
on
with Carol.
on the list it'll say like cuckoo catfish, then because they go like common name then scientific name, and they'll say like cuckoo catfish Synodontis petricola, which is like kind of nitpicking, but like those are different things. So, and then you order them, and then you get Lucipennis, and it's like, what the hell's going on here? But
so another type. These
basically,
are the types
no
of
one
things
has any idea what's going on.
These are the types of things that the true catfish experts will probably debate till the cows come home, and there probably is a lot of hybrids out there too, which again will make it more difficult. But anyway, the three fish are essentially very similar and all very cool. So you should keep them.
And very, very underutilized by people, I'd say.
Oh yeah. The difficulty with keeping, especially something like multis in your tank, is if you plan to ever breed any fish in there, they stuff with it, and they can actually stuff with the fish breeding so bad that they stop breeding.
Wow.
So like, they can. So you have to actually move the catfish around into different tanks. Otherwise, if you want to breed them, because they basically pester the breeding fish so much, they actually stop breeding, puts them off breeding.
A funny little story for people is I have a tank of it's just like random peacocks, like OBs, but like not that flash OBs, and then like random hybrids, and then like random females that I don't ever know else to put and stuff. And they kept breeding in there. So I got a bunch of multis because I was like, oh, I don't really want this random stuff breeding. And also then I could get multis out of it. It's like a win-win situation. And then the multis never did anything, and the peacocks, if anything, breed more now. So that was a waste of time and money. But sometimes, they're supposed to interfere with it, but not all the time, evidently. So yeah.
And yeah, I haven't actually successfully bred them either. I've had one fry from my multis, and I think I've got 15 or something adults or something like that.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I think everyone has different theories.
And I haven't really tried that hard. It's all about the right host and getting the conditions right, the ratio right, all that sort of stuff, and then they'll just crank. But obviously the Taiwan reef that I was using were not suitable.
Yeah,
and I just can't be bothered catching the bloody multis out and moving them. Because they hide so well, and the last time I caught them, they all got tangled up in my nets, and I had to cut all my nets up, and it was a nightmare. So,
I'll come catch them for you, and I'll move them to my tanks, eh?
Nope.
Problem solved.
Nope.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess it's time to take the plunge and talk about plecos, eh?
Should we talk about bristle noses?
Sure. So I guess a lot of people would consider them a pleco, so we can start with bristle noses. So they're like the ancestress family, and they're like, I'm gonna say the most common and like most beginner friendly and like probably easiest and all this type of thing. They stay nice and little relatively, like I don't know, maybe 12 centimeters would be kind of the average, 12 to 15, I guess.
You get sometimes see those donkey ones, which are like 15 centimeter males, and you're like, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah. If you don't spawn them, they get a lot bigger. I've got a single female that I've had in my tanks for about 4 years, and she's ginormous because she hasn't had to produce any eggs or anything like that. She's just continued to grow. So if you are looking for bigger ones, don't spawn them.
Interesting. I've never had it's not something I've heard before, so maybe I'll have to give it a go. but yeah, they're great little beginner fish. Because like you can get different colors and stuff. So like you get like the brown ones with like kind of white, like speckling almost, and then you can get like gold ones, and then like kind of yellow ones, which is like the albino technically. Then there's like the starlights, which is like dark black with proper white spots. And then overseas they get like reds and greens and I think even like purples and stuff, but we're not that lucky here.
We also get calicos here.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple different strains of them hanging around. They're a bit harder to find at the moment. And then
Interesting.
Rio UK, which is the orange seam, they were about quite a lot. Again, a little bit harder to find now, but they're about as well. And then
I should probably send my calicos down to you then, Cam, if they're hard to find, because they're just cleaning my African tanks.
Magic. And then most of your common browns, albinos, golds, and calicos come in the longfin version as well, which
that's
one of the few fish that I like of longfin is the bristlenose.
Yeah, the longfins are cool.
Unfortunately, no good with Africans, eh?
Yeah, I don't
just get picked at.
Yeah, Africans, bristlenose seem to go okay with Africans, but they can get a little bit of a hard time. So I have tried the longfin ones in there, and they were no longer longfin ones, and they were not very happy. So I had to separate them out.
With the Africans, I find they're very hit or miss. Like I haven't probably even showed you guys, but I do. Talking of like donkey bristlenoses, I have this massive gold male that would be like, I'd say it'd be easily 15 centimeters and like chunky as, just hangs out with the Africans, like has the time of his life and doesn't even care. And then I've got this other female that I've tried to catch out of my display tank many times that I can't catch, that is getting a little shredded, unfortunately. So it's a bit of a weird one, but with like, if you're keeping more like, tetras or like live bearers or like even like the smaller American cichlids, like your festivums or females or whatever, or any of that kind of stuff, they're very versatile. Like they get on with most stuff because they kind of just stick out the way, like down the bottom or like in the wood or whatever. So like the other fish don't really care because it's such a non-threat. They're just like, oh, whatever, it does its own thing, and they just leave it. Even like the more aggressive stuff, like your bedders and that, would not generally even compute to care. So they're cool fish. And then
the odd better will pick at the male's bristles because they're moving around, but females tend to be okay with them.
But
I've seen a lot of bristlenoses that
chase
other fish away. They can be quite aggressive, not aggressive, but I guess they can kind of hold their own a little bit, especially if they're having a feed and someone comes down and tries to get it, they'll chase them off.
They also like to like section off their own little like area, like they'll get their own like rock or something, and then nothing is allowed in that area at all. And like they'll sit there like for like 6 months. They'll just stay on this one rock, and you'll never see them leave because they're just so territorial of it. And it's quite fun. Like I find that one where like people really get attached to them. Like, if you've got a tank full of guppies and like one bristlenose, people get like really attached to old Bob, the bristlenose, and like, buy treats and like really care for it in that. Which I think is quite cool, like little attachment, because they're such like weird looking fish. Like they look like aliens. So I think it's easier for people to form that bond.
Kids especially love them because they like trying to search for them.
Yeah,
because
they're never the most easy to find.
I know I stick them in my partner's little tank in her classroom, and the kids all love seeing. They're all sitting there spying, and they'll sit back and then they'll see it, and someone will run up and try and see it, or run away. Oh no, you shouldn't have done that. And the thing, buddy, it gets too big for the tank, and we bring it home every school holidays, and have to go out the fish room and try and find one that looks similar, that's a bit smaller, and try and put it back in there. It's only a little tank, but
it's good fun though.
But the kids love it, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, bristlenoses are great. I think they're very, they're so versatile. Is the main thing, which means they're so approachable for everybody. But yeah, I mean, and then like once you kind of, I guess, graduate out of the bristlenoses, that's when you start to get into more like the fancy pleco world of things, which is not.
Fun.
It takes a special breed of person to be into fancy
not
plecos,
fun.
I'd say.
It's not cool.
They have fun.
If you're the type of person that just likes to sit at home and like just get a piece of wood and like sit underneath it, and there's never see the light of day for like months, then you go get some plecos. You
You're
know,
talking my language.
You'll fit in perfectly fine. You know, like if you only go out at night, maybe like your vampire tendencies or something like that. You know, like yeah, go for it. You know,
Here's
you
a
like
full
spending lots of
disclaimer.
money. You like spending
Here's
lots of
a
money
full
on a fish you're never
disclaimer.
going to see.
Ryan is a dick. Don't listen to him. If you have any interest in plecos, do not let him discourage you. They are awesome fish. Pots and patterns, totally different shapes and behaviors.
There's a little bit of a joke between African cichlid breeders and pleco breeders and all this sort of stuff about who's the most eccentric and the most crazy. So that's just what I'm playing at here.
I hate to break the news to you, but both of you guys are equally crazy. So that's it. But yeah, plecos are kind of known for a few things. They're like, obviously, as Ryan alluded to, they're known for being pretty shy and not super outgoing for the most part, with some exceptions, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the main thing is like they've got really like anyone, even Ryan, I'm sure, would admit they've got like all sorts of different like patterns, like colors, and like some has stripes, some has spots, some's orange, some's green, all this kind of thing. Like pretty much any color or pattern you can think of, there would be a fancy pleco in that color or pattern, I'd say.
That's a good point. There's not a lot of green fish around, and there's green plecos.
Yeah.
But can you see them?
Yeah, you can. If you set your tank up accordingly, you can see them.
I just people probably don't know it, but in New Zealand, you two know it because you've met him. But we have a guy that's was like pleco mad, like just crazy, and he used to go to all the conferences and all this sort of stuff, and he actually spawned one of the first in the world spawnings of a type of fish in New Zealand, so it's a fairly big deal in any fish community. But I actually went out to his fish room once, and it was just like we were cruising around. He gave me a torch, and he's like, "Oh, look under there, and you can see this and that and the other thing," and we were just spending. Oh, there it is, like hunting these plecos out underneath these rocks and stuff. But it was actually real cool because he was a real scientific fish keeper. Like he had all his pHs and his KHs and all his stuff written on his tank. So I think that's how he spawned these fish, is he managed to get the atmospheric pressure right with the water change and the right temperature drop and pH drop and all this sort of stuff to trigger them, so he was actually very technical in that sort of thing. And that's what a lot of pleco guys are. They're very patient and they're very technical to try and get these results, which is probably what inspires them rather than just sticking a couple of Africans together and making them have babies. It's a bit of a challenge and it's a bit more of a success sort of thing in that, but I just remember going through with these torches and peering under rocks and stuff. And
yeah,
there it is in the corner there. You see that? That's the only one in New Zealand. Okay, looks like an empty tank until we look under there, but
yeah, but no, they are really
enthusiast fish, really enthusiast
cool.
fish. I
think they're really cool for like you people go crazy for them, which is one of the best parts. But I did have a question for you, Cam.
Mm-hmm.
It's a question that is seen a lot around the place, and I think is almost definitely going to be a question in the comments of this. So I thought we'll get out ahead of it. So a lot of times, talking about plecos, you'll see them. They might not even have a name. It'll just be L and then a number, like L146 or whatever. What's going on there, basically? What's the deal?
So, from my understanding, the L numbers were set up from a magazine back many moons ago. And it was just the way that they were cataloging them, similar to the CW number with Corydoras.
Yep.
Yeah, so they were just catalogued that way via a number, and then as people have dug a bit deeper scientifically into them, they've been given more scientific names and proper forever names. So
so basically, it's like so like
I just popped the name. I just popped the name in the chat, and that's what the L's for.
I don't know. I did know that. I didn't want to say it because I didn't know how it's going to spell.
I don't know how to pronounce it either. But that's what it is. L is basically the family name.
I'm gonna give it a go. It's like Loricade.
Yeah,
I think.
But you can't spell you can't pronounce Demisoni or Demantonai.
Your hairline is on the back of your head, so shut up.
the only feedback we had from one of our pods was that Cam doesn't know how to pronounce Demisoni or Demisoni correctly. So we have a linguistic expert listening who's probably going to pull us apart for every single one of our pronunciations. But
I have no idea what's going on, but I'm happy to hear.
We invite that person to teach us how to pronounce things and fish names. Maybe that can be a podcast. They can come teach us how to pronounce things, and I still won't know how to pronounce anything because I can't even say what's straight on the board. You know.
But yeah, so basically it's like Loricade and then a number, and it's like every different pleco has a different number. And it's kind of like the way we as hobbyists refer to them. And then because like later on they get different scientific names and like scientifically described and all that, but they kind of keep within the hobby at least keep the L number as like their name, just because
it's like a scientific.
It's kind of just it's just like the reason we decided to do it.
It says Google reckons that when they first found them, they were mass producing them so quickly they couldn't actually name them officially. So when they found a fish in a location, they basically were like, talk to their mates or talk to the people they know, and they're like, we're going to call this one L whatever. And get some photos of it, and then that became L whatever. And I think sequentially as they discovered them, they gave them L numbers. And then later on, they actually decided that L046 was, zebra pleco and whatever the scientific name is for that, retrospectively.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, so if you guys ever hear people talking about, their L114 or whatever, that's now you should hopefully have a basic understanding of what that person is talking about. But yeah, they are also, I'm going to say, for the most part, there will be some exceptions, but for the most part, expensive as hell, essentially. Like in the probably like $200 range would be kind of the average, I'm going to say.
I don't think that's a fair comment.
Like, what do you mean?
So
like what do you reckon about that then?
$200 for a fish that's going to get 14 inches and live 10 years, that's not expensive.
For a fancy bristle nose, it's pretty expensive.
For what it is, it's not. It is. I agree. For what it is, it's not expensive. But like,
I think we can agree a $200 fish.
$200 expensive.
A $200 fish to the average hobbyist is expensive. For a pleco keeper, it's probably nothing. But it's a lot of money for the average person.
Thousands.
Most of the dwarf species are under $100 or in that realm for the price for them. It's only
that's why we have
you
here to correct me. You know more about it than me.
The bigger ones that aren't produced in aquariums in New Zealand, so they have to be imported. They're a little bit more expensive. But
basically
under 100.
What I was thinking of when I said that was probably, what was I thinking of? L190, L114, L128.
Those fancy ones, Queen Arabesques.
That's helpful.
Expensive. The ones on Trade Me, the real expensive ones on Trade Me, we've all seen them. The real big giant ones.
Clearly they are fancy plecos, but when I think about fancy plecos, I think of the dwarf species more than the bigger ones.
I definitely think of the bigger ones because like the bigger ones are the only ones that really interest me at all.
Bigger tank, bigger fish.
I would get I could see myself buying like an L114, like the leopard cactus pleco, but like
Beautiful.
I would probably. I don't think in 100 years I would ever buy a zebra pleco. So yeah, I mean that's kind of just I guess where my brain goes because it's the only part of that, the only niche within that niche that has interested me before. But yeah, I mean they are cool fish. They're just if they were more outgoing and more cheap, I would probably buy some. But
I really wish that we still had leopard frogs, 134s. They are an absolutely amazing looking pleco.
I have no idea what that looks like, but I'm going to look it up after this.
I think I've seen them, yeah.
They're just gorgeous. I think they
Are they the real stripy ones?
Yeah.
That's cool, yeah.
And what happened to them? Did they die out?
I don't know the full story, but long story short is I believe they have, or what's left is only a handful of males or something along those lines. I might be totally wrong. Fingers crossed, because pleco people
Hopefully
are pretty quiet and reclusive. There might be a couple people with holding onto groups and nobody knows about them, but yeah, from my understanding, it might be gone.
And like African cichlids, there is a whole bunch of people that keep these things. They argue about their IDs. They argue about which L number it is and how many spots it should have on its butt and things like that. You know, like so they really get down to the nitty gritty detail of whether that's an L, whatever or whatever. You know, like
100%.
And it's really they really are like a real enthusiast fish. I think of like the average person might keep one just for a feature fish or a wow fish in their tank, but the guys that really get into it are really pretty serious about it.
Yeah, oddly enough, I think I sell more individuals as feature fish than what I do groups for spawning or keeping them. So
which is a shame.
Last few,
which is a shame.
Yeah,
it'd be nice if you sold more groups because then maybe more people would keep them and more people would, and the price would come down, and then we wouldn't have things like what happened to your 134s where they died out because just no one had them. You know, if it falls on a couple of people to keep things going, as we have with a lot of fish species, then these people
half of your Fishroom, isn't it?
Pretty much. If I give up, they get spread one side of their world to the other, and they just die out. You know.
I think L140s are another really good example of that. 5 or 6 years ago, retailing $50 and then they just bought individuals. L140s, the big bands.
Oh yeah, those are those ones that I had, eh?
Yeah, really, really common. They were everywhere, and now all of a sudden, not a lot of people seem to be holding them. Not a lot of people seem to be spawning them, and retail prices up over $100 for them.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I should become a pleco guy.
It's a funny and supply and demand thing, isn't it? That one when
Pretty much so.
Everyone's breeding something when the price is up, and then the price drops, everyone stops, and they disappear.
No one holds the bag.
Yeah,
for sure.
Been there, done that many times.
So yeah, I mean, I suppose the other thing to talk about when talking about plecos is like the common pleco species. So things like red spots and gold spots and like sailfins and stuff like that. They're pretty. I really like them. I think they're really like you get like a big one, like a massive one. They're so cool, but it's just they do get very big, and they get big very fast, and they are very like horrifically cheap, like way too cheap, I think. So I'd probably say a majority of them go to bad spots, but they are cool fish.
We talked about them before on the previous pod, anyway. But
yeah,
they
deserve a shout out.
If you've got a big tank, they're a cool fish. They're cool fish if you've got a big tank. If you've got a big enough tank,
at least they're out and about. At least they're out and about. You'll be able to see them.
Like out and about in Florida where they're destroying everything.
Yeah, pretty much. At least you can see them.
They found them in some dams. They found them in some dams here too, didn't they? In Tauranga, didn't they?
Down Tauranga ways, I think it was.
Yeah, they found some. I don't know if they were reproducing or if they just found a couple of released ones, but they found some.
Is that right there not a reason why they should never, ever be imported back into the country? Like koi?
Well,
Yeah, I
that
got both of
goes-
you there.
no. Well,
Well, we don't know
there
for
is-
sure if they don't know for sure if they've actually reproduced there or if it was just one dumped out of a fish tank, but it was alive.
Yeah.
So that was a
'Cause
problem.
and I mean, there is another thing of like plenty of other stuff, like white clouds, mollies, goldfish. That's like in the same boat, basically.
But do they become invasive and do they destroy stuff?
Can do.
Do they?
Well, no, but plecos
There you go.
haven't either.
Hey, that's cool. Yeah, let's move on to Corydoras because I won that argument. Thank you very much. I'll take one when I get one.
I don't know if he won it.
You
but
didn't.
He,
I'm not 100% sure on what you're actually saying, but we can make that a whole podcast.
I don't like big common.
Can we
big common pleco.
okay? Can we go back to fancy plecos and just ask Cam a question, please? Cam, inbreed a question.
Yep.
If Nigel, we'll just
Mhm.
say Nigel, has
Mhm.
got his little fish tank there and he's got some anglefish in it, which we shouldn't have because the tank's too small and we don't like them. But he's got some cool community fish and he's chilling out and then he sees an L146 or zebra pleco in a fish shop or on Trade Me and he saves up all his Christmas and birthday money and his Easter money and mows the lawns and stuff. What sort of should he do it and what sort of environment should he provide for this fish so that it actually stays alive and the 2 or 3 times he sees it a year he can actually enjoy it.
Are we specifically talking zebra plecos, or are we wanting?
I'm thinking
specific.
any of your small fancy plecos. I'm thinking. I don't really know. You're talking about L140s, big band tigers. I think they are that sort of stuff.
First and
fancy
foremost,
plecos.
need to work out basically what they are and what their feeding requirements are, because they're not all made the same. Python and citrus, for example, they're more carnivorous, and so they want their protein-based foods, whereas and citrus are more green-based, as an example. So you need to sort of work out what feeding they want. So that's your first and foremost. And next from there, the temperature ranges change on them quite significantly as well. Some of them like quite warm water. Some of them prefer sort of more mild water. So that'll be the first two things to be looking at that I would consider. Once you get through that, back to the feeding requirements, some of them are very out there when it comes to eating. Others are a lot more reclusive. So if you've got a really boisterous community tank and the plecos you're looking at buying are reclusive eaters, they may not ever get anything they need and they're going to starve to death. But if they're far more out there when it comes to eating, that might not be as big of a deal.
Are they all nocturnal? Can you just feed them at night?
Majority of them are nocturnal, yes.
So you can just turn up the lights and chuck some food in at night and they'll be sweet ass?
Depends on when you do it. Like if your light's been out for some time and all your other fish are sort of knocked out per se, it's okay. But you can also train them to eat in the light time, or a lot of them you can train to come out during the day with the lights are on so you can feed them and see them as well.
And some people put a tube in there or something and put shit down to get it into where they are, to try and get it into the or whatever.
Yeah, I've never bothered with anything like that. I've seen a couple of videos of people with those weird little things, but yeah, I've never really bothered with that. I just sort of chuck them in and away you go.
Sounds like a lot of faffing around.
You can successfully keep these things in a community tank then. I mean, some of them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, not your big bastard ones, but the little ones.
Yeah.
Can you keep a zebra pleco in a community tank?
I know people that do. I personally think they do better in a species-only tank with maybe some dither fish of like lemon tetras, for example. But I do know people that keep them into a community tank.
That is
that your squeaky bird?
That was Nigel.
It is
Nigel the bird saying hello.
I don't know if it, like a normal hobbyist, is gonna set up a species-only tank for a fish you're never gonna, seldom gonna see at the best of times. Basically.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking a question. I'm just like I'm trying to understand, because to me it seems like a complete waste of time and energy and money. But I can understand that someone like little Timmy or little Nigel might really just like think that is the coolest thing in the world, and like save up all his pennies to try and do it, you know, and is it doable? You know, like is it
Depends on
advisable or doable?
what you consider a normal hobbyist.
I think we're all a little bit mad, so like, you know,
Got to
there's no
factor
such
that
thing
in.
as normal. I mean, we're just three idiots talking stuff about fish, you know.
I mean, you could argue anyone relatively new to the hobby. How many people do you know keep species only tanks? It's not really common.
It's not common.
It's
no.
common, but it's not really common, if that makes sense.
Mm.
You're at a next level when you're keeping species only tanks, regardless of what species you're keeping. Unless it's a solitary fish, but even then you're normally at a slightly different level as well.
Yeah, and that's why I started asking the question about these fancy plecos. So, Cam, are there any commonly available fancy plecos that someone who might think, hey, I really want to experience this, you guys are really selling it to me? You know, like you're telling me all these beautiful, wonderful things about these awesome fish. What would you recommend now? What's hot on the streets at the moment that could be a good entry level, not so dumb one?
Most people are pretty keen on gold nuggets. They're a fairly one that people like. Blue and green phantoms are another one that people tend to enjoy a lot of as well.
Was that one of the ones that Jeff spawned? I
can't
first
remember
in the world.
I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd recommend those ones in a community tank, would you, or your gold nugget, or your?
Depends on your size and what else you've got based with what you've got.
I'm going to throw another one out there that is a bit of a... I don't know if this is cheating or not, but I think it's like L183 Starlight Bristlenose.
Yeah.
That's a very approachable beginner one. That is a bit more fancy, but is going to be fine. Like, you'll be able to have it with like all your, tetras or whatever, but it's kind of a cheaper one to maybe dip your toe in if you're wanting to see if this pleco thing is for you. So that's the only other one I'd say. But yeah, otherwise, and I think with Jeff, I have a feeling it was a green, what's it called, green phantoms, but it also may not be. But that's what I thought it was. So yeah.
Yeah, and we'll probably get it wrong and offend someone.
Whiptails are another one you could look at doing as a relatively good one to start with as well. Particularly the reds, they stay quite small.
I'm very visually biting my tongue right here.
Why? All right.
Just throw a bunch of sticks in, and you'll have the same experience.
That's the coolest thing about them. Like, you can have
I think we might have done the pleco thing now, and
thank God.
Should we go on to something that's just equally as exciting to me?
Can I just make one closing point on the plecos?
Yes, we know that we know they're expensive. We know you can't see them.
A lot of the smaller dwarf ones aren't being commonly bred as much as they were. The smaller dwarf ones are, generally speaking, pretty good in the community aquarium, depending on what they are, compared to your gold nuggets and your sunshines and all that kind of stuff. But they're not being that commonly bred at the moment, or for some time now, which makes them a little bit harder to be keeping in things.
That's one, obviously I know a lot of fish people, but I don't really see anyone breeding them really.
They were pretty hot 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, obviously that was before I was on the scene, so I wouldn't really know, but yeah, no, it makes sense. But yeah, so I think we're going to talk about Corys next. The Corydoras species, which is just like these little, usually little catfish-looking fellas that just cruise around the bottom. Again, pretty much not as much variety, I'm going to say, in terms of like colors and patterns and stuff, but like not that far behind. All sorts of different ones. So yeah, they're good. Like there's a whole range from there's plenty that would be suitable for like your first fish, all the way up to ones that's like super obscure, like fancy pleco level, obscure random Corys that'll, cost you an arm and a leg that you've only ever seen imported once in your life, kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, they're one of those ones that's got the same sort of community surrounding it with identifying them and all the little subspecies, and there's so many different varieties, and the importers don't really know the differences, and the exporters probably don't really know the differences. So all sorts of random stuff does come in legally, of course, but just different subspecies, you know.
Mixed in. Yeah, like a
so
slightly different orange band or whatever, and then it's technically a different fish, but it's the same thing, just
it's the
minor
same
color
fish,
difference.
you know. So that's where they can get pretty cool, and where the pleco guys, or the catfish guys, will get a little bit. Sorry, the Cory guys will get a little bit hung up with it and get a bit excited, you know.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's like every niche does, but I think they're cool little beginner fish, because they're ones that people think is really interesting to watch as well. The way they kind of cruise around the bottom and like they like forage in the sand and all this kind of thing, which is good fun. So yeah.
And those little panda ones are pretty cool for a small tank, eh?
Yeah, pandas, pygmies, peppers, all those kind of things. They're all
I like pandas.
They're
pandas
very
cool.
approachable size.
They're so weak.
I like pandas too.
Yeah, but they're weak.
Wow.
I have actually found they are weak when they're small. Like, because when we order them in, they are like comically small. They're like the size of a piece of rice. But I find once you get them to like their adult size, they're pretty sweet after that. It's just like when they're small, same as anything, I suppose. Like you look at them funny, and half of them will die.
Is it because they're small, or because they don't like the stress of moving and everything that goes with it?
Probably a
I'm going to say a
combination.
combination of both.
Yeah.
A small
yeah,
fish that's probably too small to be sold and transported is going to have a bit of a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say actually pandas is probably the worst one for that, and like the ones that get sent around are just like comically small, like hilariously small. But yeah, they're also one that does get locally bred on.
Yeah, I would have thought you guys would have local breeders for all this sort of stuff. It'd be pretty easy to breed them. Surely.
Well, do it then, punk.
You got told, man. Get out of Africa.
I don't really want to do dumb fish like that.
Then why are you doing it?
They're cool in their own right. They're cooler than a fancy pleco, so I'll give them that.
They're interesting. You know? And they're also ones like something like I have noticed in the shop is like the albinos. Like kids just go crazy for them. Like little kids just love them because it's such a like, and it's like weird. It's like a stupid looking fish, but like in a good way. It looks stupid. And like little kids, like tiny little kids just love them.
Fish that are good.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I mean they're good as well. There's like some bigger ones, like you can go up to like the emerald green brocas, which is like, I know it's not a Cory people who are listening, but like it's a Cory. But like they get bigger, like pretty chunky, decent size. Like they might be good for like bigger tank with like some slightly bigger fish. Then you go all the way down to like the pygmy, which is like an adult would be like the size of a grain of rice. So like you got that whole different size range. There's like different ones for different applications, and then like different color variations and all this kind of thing. So I think they're pretty cool. Sort of a must-have for a community tank, I'd almost say. Some form of Cory.
So what's the
around the bottom?
No, I haven't kept many of them, but groups. You should be keeping them in groups, because they kind of hang out together. Is that right? And people talk about keeping them on sand, not on gravel, because apparently their barbels can get worn down or something. What's the story with that? What's the story?
I think it's not necessarily gravel, but it's like rough or like sharp gravel that wears it down. Like if you have like a bigger smooth rocks, like the river stone type of rocks, they'll be fine.
Salad, your classic aquarium fruit salad,
yeah, they'll be fine. But like stuff like the real sharp, like coarse sands you can get and stuff like that, kind of just like files it down over time. They're little whiskers, which is obviously not good.
The only thing about using like a smoother, soft gravel is that it takes away their ability to exhibit their natural behaviors of sort of diving into sand. So it's not going to damage them or harm them. They're not going to get that natural foraging type of thing that they
exactly. I think it's definitely well worth it to keep them on sand, just for like the experience type of thing. But then also the other thing is even something like a fluorite will be fine. It's going to be plenty sort of soft enough for them to not get scratched up and not and like be able to dig their holes in that. But if you want something a little bit bigger for aesthetic reasons, that would be fine.
What about numbers?
Numbers for me is I have a controversial opinion. Is like even if you keep like 4, they'll be fine. But really, for like most cories, I'm gonna say you don't want to keep them in like less than 12. I'd say, because otherwise they just kind of sit around and don't do that much. But you get like a proper good group going. They do this little thing where they like shimmy around and like swim over each other, and it looks like a wave of cories cruising around the tank. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's what I think is like you can keep less, but I'm gonna say for enjoyment's sake, you won't get as much out of them unless it's like 12 plus. And
it does vary. So a lot of cories.
It does vary cory to cory as well. Like something like an albino, you probably don't need as much, whereas something like a pygmy, you'll probably want more. But as a general rule,
the more that you keep in a group, the better you see their behaviour, the more natural they behave, the way that they do their things just becomes normal, if that makes sense, compared to like smaller numbers. Yeah,
100%.
Like it's almost worth considering a lot of schooling fish is almost colony type fish, and the more you have, the better you're going to get out of them.
Yeah, 100%. It's more like it's one of those ones where I always tell people to think like, in the wild, like where they originally would come from, you wouldn't be able to count the number of fish. So like you shouldn't be able to count the number in your tank. Like the difference between like, I don't know, so like 12 to 15, like cories in this example, but applies to like tetras or even like trophies and stuff, is not like 12 to 15, you're not going to be able to count because they'll be swimming around moving too much. But like if you have 6, you'll be able to count them. So I say my rule of thumb is like you don't want to be able to count them because then that means you want more, basically.
Speaking of
if you imagine you're the predator.
I had a customer come in and ask how many gold lasers I had today, and I said, computer says I've got 2. We normally kind of drop the number down just so we don't oversell them, sort of thing. And we'll go have a look, and then there was 11 in the tank.
Oh, nice.
It's just a funny wee counting story. I don't know how we got to 2 when there was clearly a significantly larger number in there. But
yeah, I mean, I don't even like my inventory tracking for fish is all over the place. Like, I'll be like, oh yeah, there's none left in the computer, and I'll go look, and there'll be like genuinely like 20 fish. I'm like, I have no idea what's happened there. I don't want to know. I'll just
thanks for me. We'll move on.
It goes the other way.
I have no idea what's in my fish room either. Cam knows this. He just randomly goes, "Can I have that?" Oh, how'd that get in there? Oh, you can have it. Yeah,
that's like your random Julie we found the other day that materialized out of thin air.
That massive adult Julie in that tank. But anyway,
it's just there.
Next time it'll be at your shop, I think.
Hopefully, if I can catch it. But yeah, so. Oh yeah.
I saw the featherfin. I've seen it.
I haven't. Okay, we're gonna take a sidebar. So Ryan has this tank that's like, what is it? It's like 4 foot by like 3 foot by like 20 centimeters tall, like 120 centimeters by like 90 centimeters, and then like short as all hell.
400 tall, yeah.
4 by 3.
Oh, 400 tall. And so in this tank is just a random, like there's peacocks, there's haps, there's trophius, there's this random Julie Dixfeldi that no one knows where it came from. There's like all sorts of random stuff in here. And there's this featherfin synodontis that's like allegedly like, I don't know, what would it be, like 8 centimeters, 10 centimeters, something like that.
Yeah.
And Ryan's offered it to me the last, like 4 times I've been there. And I saw it the first time and couldn't catch it. And then I haven't seen it since. And Ryan can never find it. Cam allegedly has seen it, but he's probably been paid off. And it's like just this mystery featherfin that's just randomly in this tank. And as soon as you go to catch it, it just disappears, and it's never to be seen again until feeding time next time. It's cruising around happy as Larry. So
It's
this
a vanishing
featherfin is
fish.
quickly becoming
It's a
the
vanishing
bane of
fish.
everybody's existence. I
Yeah, I mean,
think if
at the
it
end of the day,
wants to stay that badly, it should.
it's not causing anyone any harm where it is. I just don't particularly like it.
You just got to
I
keep
rescued
it.
it.
You got to
I
keep it now. We
rescued it
found its
and
spot.
rescued it because it was in a tiny tank. You know, someone gave it to me, and now I want to
What
give
a
it to someone
what a
else who can
great
actually
guy.
enjoy it. Someone can actually enjoy
Well,
it, you know, and
well.
than me hating it every time I see it and think I'm feeding this fish that I don't like.
The fish doesn't want to play ball.
It
No.
probably doesn't like you either, to be fair.
It's only
Don't blame
human.
it.
I mean,
It's only
It's
human.
not.
it's only aquatic. It's only
It's only
an
fish.
animal. It's only a fish.
Yeah.
Dear.
So yeah, I mean, we're probably running a little bit tight on time. We were going to talk about loaches and stuff, but
Too much African Cichlid talk. Not enough catfish
So I mean,
talk.
okay. Well, we'll finish off with Corey's then. We can just lump loaches in with something else later.
yeah.
The Corey's. So what do we? Someone comes into your fish shop and they say, "Hey, Cam, I want to get some Corey's. What do I do?" You know, what are the questions you ask, and sort of how do you know what to steer them towards, and you know, what can they keep them with, what can't they keep them with, what should they buy, you know, what should they feed them, all that sort of stuff.
I kind of well, like first I kind of go through like the basic questions as like applies to any sale, is like, you know, finding out like what sort of size and like stuff they've already got, because like they might come in and be like, oh yeah, I've got a Oscar. So in that case, it's like, okay, yeah, that's not going to happen. But, you know, once we figure out it's like a suitable tank, I'll probably recommend a couple like size-wise that might be the better option. So like, oh, they've only got a little tank. Maybe your pandas might be a better option. Got a bit more room. Maybe we'll be looking at the Aeneas Cories, which is like the bronzes and the albinos and stuff. And I kind of always recommend, people. It's probably an area of contention. I don't think it should be, but like people say that you don't have to feed them and they scavenge enough, but I think you definitely have to feed them.
Absolutely.
But like they're pretty easy. Like they'll eat anything, like, you know, frozen food, live food, pellets, flakes, whatever. So like that's not that bad. You can just feed like a decent sinking pellet, and they'll kind of like. That's also kind of fun because they like just kick it around like a little football, and you just see them like
I used to
running
feed
around
mine those
chasing this little football.
the Wardley's sinking shrimp pellets. Remember those ones?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank God
They
they've
were
gone
good. They were good. I fed my Corys when I had them years ago. They sold
Nice.
it to me when. Oh Jesus! What's happening there?
Ryan's got a zoo.
Well, Ryan's got to take care of bloody Tonto losing his mind. So, yeah, but no, I always say keep as many as you can. Not target feed them, but feed them consciously. Can feed them whatever, but yeah. And also, yeah, I mean that's basically it. Like they're pretty easy fish, really. Like some of them, like you get into the more fancier ones, are a bit more fragile and like delicate, but like. Kind of like the bread and butter Corys, which is like mostly what I deal with. Like, pretty, you know, they're as hardy as any other fish, really. Like, obviously, you got bad water quality, stuff's going to go wrong for anything. But like, Corys are no more susceptible to that, really, than, you know, guppies or whatever.
The only ones I've ever really found to be too susceptible is the pandas, and I'm sure that's just moving around that I don't like. But when you're looking at Corys in a shop, definitely make sure their barbels or feelers or whatever you want to call them around their mouth are still fully intact and they're not nubs or they're not got little white edges on them, because that's not a good sign.
For sure.
Most but not all Corydoras are fairly active. So if they're out and about, that's also a good sign. If they're just kind of sitting by themselves, that's not normally a good sign. There's some exceptions, like the skunks are pretty lazy. They'll just sort of sit and do not much. Stir-bys I've found to be pretty lazy as well, but a lot of them are
hard though with that. It is. I find with Corys, I don't know if this is true or not, but just my experience is like they're active and then they're like they're super active, and then they're like sleeping. There's no in between. Like they don't
So
seem
like
to
a
have
cat?
like a yeah, pretty much. Like
Yeah.
they don't seem to have like a medium setting. It's like either 100% or 0. Like I've got a bunch of albinos in one of my tanks. It's like they'll be shooting around like nobody's business for 10 minutes, and then they'll just sit still for an hour. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like if they're supposed to do that, but they've been doing that for like 4 years and nothing bad's happened. So fingers crossed. But yeah, the other thing that popped into my head to watch out for is like skinniness. I find that Corys are quite bad for when you first get them. They're like skinny as all hell, like on death's door, particularly pandas, but all of them really. It doesn't take much. It'd take maybe like for the shop, it'll if you're feeding like good food and stuff, it'll take like a couple days to get them plump again enough. But you just want to make sure they're not like super pinched in the midsection and that. Just because obviously if they're super starving, they're not going to travel as well as like a fat and healthy one. So yeah, that's probably the only other thing I'd say to look out for.
It's fickle.
Yeah. So
Right. So is
I mean,
that are we done for catfish and Corys, and we don't ever have to speak
yeah.
of this again?
Oh, we're
I
going to
was
speak
gonna
about
say-
it a lot. You worry.
So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to double check, but I'm pretty sure this is our longest podcast. So make of that
Only
information
because
what you
we're not
will,
topic.
but
Only because
We
we're not
must love
topic
it.
about African
I
cichlids.
think maybe
good.
maybe
14
if
minutes
there's
of
maybe if
catfish
there's and actual interest, we can get some questions and we can try and get an actual pleco person on here. And I will
Yeah.
try my best just not to hassle the shit out of them the whole time.
So in
We'll
other words,
just
you want
In fact, I'll lie. That's a lie. I won't do that.
what we'll do is we'll just mute Ryan's mic and then we'll get Jeff or something on to talk. And then Ryan can just be seen, if you watch on YouTube, Ryan could be shaking his fist at the camera.
Yeah, you'll see
but
my
we don't
shiny
have to
red
listen
head.
to him.
You'll see my shiny red head just getting angry at the screen.
Exactly, yeah. So,
But yeah,
yeah.
Jeff's actually a good guy, and I got a lot of time for Jeff. So yeah, if there was actually interest, I wouldn't be against doing that. It'd be quite cool.
We can,
And we'd probably
if
actually
people
have
want
someone
to
on
see
here who
that,
knows
we
what
can
they're
see
talking
what
about.
we can do. Yeah, it'll be 3 idiots plus 1 smart person.
3 idiots plus 1 pleco breeder.
Exactly.
All right, so are we done? Can I sign it off?
Yep. Go to town, big fella.
All right, party people. You are here with Ryan, Inbred Cam, and young Cooler Cam. Speaking about one of my favourite topics today, that was plecos and synodontis and Corys. So, woo! Oh yeah, so much excitement. Next week we are talking about.
Oh, damn. We didn't actually sort that, did we?
Let's make it pictures and forward because that's fun.
It's gonna be a surprise next week because we got a surprise in store for you guys, and it's probably going to be equally as exciting as this. So
Sounds
stay
good.
tuned. Cam is getting hit up lots about the merch that he's making, so keep the inquiries going, and we'll get some orders in, and you guys can all be 3 idiots like us. See you all.
Bye.
Goodbye.